everybody, to American Culinary Federation Around the World in 80 Plates, where it's the ACF's very first crack at a virtual convention. And I'm hoping that you know me. My name is Rocco Paradiso, and I, for one, am so super stoked to be here. But before we even get started, I want to take a minute and just get a little philosophical, if I could, please. I personally am so grateful that the American Culinary Federation is doing something like this. You know, how many times do we hear it? It's unprecedented times. And this indeed is a very unique event that I am so proud to be a part of. I am proud as a member of the American Culinary Federation, but I'm even more proud as a host for the American Culinary Federation Around the World in 80 Plates. And what an event we have for you. It's a first of its kind, and I could think of no one better to kick off this great event than quite possibly one of the world's best chefs, one of the world's foremost innovators, and a mentor to so many. Ladies and gentlemen, before we turn it over, I get to spend 5 great minutes with the legendary chef, Jacques Pepin. Chef Pepin, how are you today, sir?
Okay, I'm fine. Thank you very much. Very elogious, but I don't know.
Was that a good enough introduction for you?
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Well, Chef, like I said, I can seriously think of no one better to kick us off than somebody like you. And before we got started, we were talking a little bit about culinary schools and virtual. And, you know, right now there's not a ton of these culinary schools that are out there anymore. And especially with COVID-19, Chef, I've got to imagine that so many people, young chefs, old chefs, it doesn't matter. Everyone is feeling a little down and a little depressed. So what can you say to help encourage and inspire some of these amazing people that have been impacted by COVID-19?
You know, you will always eat. You eat half an hour after you're born and probably half an hour before you die. So it's an ongoing situation. So, and it is great, without any question, for us, for professional cooks, to be together, to cook together, to inspire one another. But you can do that at home too. I think also people are getting closer to their home kitchen, closer to their own garden, closer to nature in some way, you know, that make you reflect on certainly the time when I was a kid. For me, those type of things were much more important, you know, closer to home, less spread out, and people can do that. And in fact, as you mentioned, the virtual type of thing, which is new to me, certainly, and I've been in the kitchen over 70 years now. That's a long time. But yes, there will always be you to cook for your mother, for your wife, for your kid, for your friend, too. So that stay there. It never changed.
Yeah, that's great. And, you know, speaking of cooking more at home and always having that memory, and, you know, I'm sure you probably share this with a lot of individuals, it's food evokes memory, and memory sparks passion. Passion's what feeds our souls. And speaking of feeding souls, what would you say, Chef, are the 3 must-have ingredients that you, Chef Jacques Pepin, always have in your pantry at all times?
Oh boy. In my pantry or in my refrigerator, I mean, certainly for me, the trilogy maybe of cooking is going to be probably onion, garlic, tomato, things like that. Eggs, I can't live without eggs. I mean, if I start going, I'm going to add too many more. Yes, there is always, you know, next to a beer, you know, there is a kind of truffle in the refrigerator. So, yes, and butter.
Yes, always butter.
Can't live without bread and butter, yes, and a Frenchman.
That's great. And speaking of cooking, and Chef, you just said you've been in the kitchen for 70-something years. That's absolutely amazing. Hats off to you. And actually, you can't see it, but right next to me is a copy of Complete Technique, and I reference it all the time when I'm looking at different things. So my hat's off to you, sir. Thank you so very much for that.
Thank you very much.
Here's my question. What would you say is the one culinary skill that still gives you a little bit of heartburn when you have to do it, be it trussing a chicken or filleting a fish? Is there still one culinary skill, or are you pretty much mastered them all?
Well, no, there is always a question of suspense in the kitchen. The cooking is the art of compensation, the art of adjustment. the art of recovery, in a sense. When you do a souffle in the oven, there is always a certain amount of suspense before it gets to the table. When you cook a chicken, you always change, adjust, and this is the art of cooking. This is the beauty of a great chef or a great restaurant, is to go there and to have the dish exactly the same each time. This is the hardest part of it. In order for the dish to be the same each time, you have to change it each time. There is no way you can have exactly the same chicken, same amount of fat, same amount of, you cook on gas, on electric, you cook on copper, with aluminum, you're in a good mood, you're in a bad mood, it's humid, it's not humid. So there are adjustments to do to all of those cooking. And this is what a professional chef does. And this is a paradox in many ways, because when you write a recipe as I do, you start with an idea and with a couple of ingredients. At that time, you have total freedom, because you take this, you add to this, and you adjust, and you add to that, and you write down what you're doing. So that freedom at the end of the recipe, by the time I finish writing down what I'm doing, I give you a typewritten page, and the freedom is totally lost. Now you're totally structured to a typewritten page, which is the opposite of what you have to start when you have the type of freedom. Well, for a chef, professional chef, that is different. There is that freedom, because if you do the same dish, if you saute a piece of fish in a restaurant in a certain way, and you have 7 orders, that same knife or that same fish, 7 times it's going to be slightly different. It's going to be unconscious most of the time. You won't realize it, but you have to have adjustments so that fish always come out the same. And this is what being a professional chef is.
Yeah. And you said 2 things in there that truly hit home with me, and that's recover and adjust. And I think right now, more than ever, I think that's exactly what we need to hear. As chefs, as professionals, we're all trying to recover and adjust. So what does that next recipe look like for each and every one of us? Those were fantastic words, Chef. And I'm sure, much like we've all been stuck at home. I personally have developed a fondness for Doritos, so I put on the Quarantine 15. What would you say has been your guilty food pleasure during quarantine, Chef?
I have no guilt with any type of food, regardless of whether I'm eating a Dorito, as you say, or an egg. But for me, it always go back to eggs, chicken, and my garden. I mean, the garden is so full now. Last night I did two dishes with my Swiss chard, with a puree of spinach with the leaf, and then I sauteed the rib to saute with some cheese. And I think I'm going to have some more tonight, because the garden is very important for me, what's going on now. So, and don't forget to drink a lot of wine.
Lots of wine, lots of water, cooking from the garden, cooking from the heart. These are words that I think each and every one of us truly needed to hear. And Chef, seriously, from the bottom of my heart, I know I speak on behalf of the majority of the American Culinary Federation when we say thank you. Thank you for being such a pioneer. Thank you for being such a great coach, a mentor, and a leader to each and every one of us in this kitchen. And honestly, I can think of no better individual to kick this around the world and 80 plates off than you, sir. So thank you so very much. Chef Jacques Pepin, I know you're going to be rocking and rolling in the kitchen here in just a second, so I hope that we all stick around and get to watch your legendary presentation. Chef Jacques Pepin, my hat is off to you, sir. Thank you so very, very much for all of your time and everything that you've done for the culinary profession and for each and every one of us.
Thank you very much. I've been very lucky in life. I had a great life. Thanks to you. Thank you.
Absolutely, Chef. Thank you very much.
Smithville Culinary's relationship to the ACF goes back some time now, and we're always amazed to see what happens at these wonderful ACF events. We at Smithville Culinary, the food service operation of Smithville Foods, a leading protein and pork company, are committed to the ACF at multiple levels. It starts with our consistent presence at the National Convention and Regional Chef Connect events. Then, with our member development program, we help cultivate new members with both lapsed and student chefs. Finally, our Partner in Culinary Excellence program where we work with multiple chapters, over 35 across the country. Our goal with each of these programs is always first to listen to you, then turn those learnings into meaningful insights to make your operations better. including consumer insights, segment analysis, as well as menu inspiration. Our goal is to have you think of Smithfield Culinary not just as another meat vendor, but as a valued partner to the chef community. Smithfield Culinary is proud to sponsor this general session, and I'm thrilled to be able to introduce our next speaker, Chef Jacques Pepin.
I'm sure it's going to be a great event. I'm looking forward to it. Meanwhile, happy cooking. Okay, and here it is. It's about 7-8 ounces. Back into the oven for another hour. A very elegant first course, a timbal of salmon with cream cheese. I'm sure you will enjoy it. Happy cooking. You know, a nice decoration for Thanksgiving, for example, is to do an apple swan, which I do with an apple like this. So what you do, first you cut the base of an apple. That's going to become the neck and the head. So here you have to carve so that will be the head of my apple, of my swan. Make a little hole in there for the eye. Even put a, if you want to put a, okay, so that's the head. So now we have to do the wing. The wing we cut on one side a little wedge like this. Then another wedge. Then another wedge. That's when I realized that I need glasses. 3 wedges should be enough because this will go back here. You see, extended like this and like this to do your wing. So we need the wing on the other side. One, 2, 3. Sometimes I do a red apple, and I use the green apple to make the wing, and so forth. Doesn't really matter. Here we'll leave it here. Won't show this, and then after I have to do the tail. 1, 2, 3. Okay, the head is going to be here, so I have to make a hole here for the head. Yeah, that should be all right. So now we put it back together. The tail, this, the tail, here, second one here, third one here, this way. Did I do the wrong side? Here. And the other wing. Put a bit of lemon juice for decoration on top. And I'm going to put okay, and here it is, my swan. Happy cooking. I want to show you how to bake a salmon with a garnish. I'm doing an endive here. I have a large Belgian endive, as you can see here. This is about, I would say about 7-8 ounces. pretty large. So one for two like this. My wife and I did fine. And what I do, put them in a skillet like this, with about 2 tablespoons of water, maybe at the most, a little piece of butter. I'm going to put a dash of salt on this, and a little dash of sugar also. Okay, bring that to a boil. I'm going to let it boil. The water will evaporate. It will cook about 5, 6, 7 minutes, and then eventually, because of the sugar, a bit of butter is going to brown nicely. So this will be the garnish for our salmon. Of course, that's a second recipe. I have 2 pieces of salmon. They're about 5 ounces each. You can see the belly is there, and the belly is very thin. And so what I do, fold your belly underneath so that they are about the same equal size all over. Maybe a tablespoon of ketchup, a dash of hot oil. This is really very hot, that oil. So you can have another type of hot sauce. This is the roasted sesame oil, half a teaspoon. I'm going to put a dash of salt on top of it still, and mix this. So I'll put a little bit underneath, a little more underneath. This is, any seasoning you can do. I mean, my salmon here will cook in a 400-degree oven or something like that for about 5, 6, 7 minutes. It depends on the thickness of the salmon. It also depends how you like it. I mean, my wife likes it more rare than I do, but so you can have that ready and ready to go into the oven. So you can see that my endive here is still very hot, so I want all of that to evaporate and start browning. So the whole thing will take about 7, 8 minutes, 10 minutes. So when it's about ready, then I put that into the oven. 7 minutes, 400 degrees in the oven. And you see, this is the center. It's still a little bit rare, but this is the way we like it. You can cook it a little more. So here we are here. Here is my endive. Yep. The endive are cooked now. They cook about 7, 8 minutes too. Maybe I'll put them this way. Then the salmon. And a bit of herb on top. Always help. Okay, and this is the baked salmon with the little braised Belgian endive. Happy cooking! Today I'm going to show you how to make a roast of veal, but it is breast of veal. Veal is very expensive, except the breast of veal like that, which I occasionally find at my market, is really inexpensive. It's about 3 pounds, and that's enough for like 4 people. I mean, there is the bone on one side, the skin, then there is 2 large bones here. But it's really very delicious. So the first thing we're going to do is to put salt, pepper on it, of course, all over, and put it to roast into a very sturdy cocotte like this. We call that a cocotte. This is the skin on top. There isn't that much fat here, but there is some fat inside, some fat underneath, so I'm going to put that to roast in there. I would say a good 20-25 minutes so that it's really brown all over. This is about 25-30 minutes now, so let's see. Really brown beautifully all around. Rather a little bit of fat. Could leave the fat in, but maybe I'll take it out. Let's put it this way. Okay, and now I'm going to put 1 large onion in there, just cut in 2 or 4 pieces, and about 5-6 cloves of garlic, A very large clove of garlic here, peeled. A little bunch of fresh thyme, 1 bay leaf, and that's about it. I'm going to put that in the oven. I could deglaze with a bit of white wine or leave it like that. I think I'm going to leave it just like that, 275 degrees for 2 hours. And now my veal breast has been in the oven, so I'm going to do the next. I have about a pound of potato here, 2 big potatoes. I have 2 large carrots, as you can see here, and 4 big mushrooms. Just wash them, each one cut in half. It's better to put your vegetable not too long before the end of it, otherwise they really fall apart. And here is the veal, as you can see, and now it's already basically cooked. But the finishing of it, okay, 4 of those. The carrot, there's a fair amount of juice in it by itself. Maybe I put a dash of salt on the vegetable in it. Back into the oven for another hour. And this is it, finally. It takes time, but not much work to put it into the oven. This has cooked with the vegetable now for another hour, so it's really cooked. Braised gently. I see I have a beautiful dish here. Oh my God. I'll bring it here to that. And as you can see, in that pan, you have an enormous amount of juice, just the natural juice of the veal, because I didn't add anything to it. So here, when we were kids, my brother and I would fight for that piece of meat here, which is the meat with the cartilage on it. Here, this is the bone. As you can see, I cut right through the bone. The bone is cooked practically. So here it is here with the cartilage here and all that, and a potato, a couple of carrots, a mushroom, of course. Well, I already have a mushroom, and a wonderful natural juice gravy here. Maybe a bit of herb on top of it. And this is the veal breast, fit for a king. Happy cooking. I went walking my dog at the beach this morning, and I brought back a few of the beach roses, or the wild roses who grow there. They're absolutely wonderful. The fragrance is amazing. Of course, they have not been treated or anything like this. I want to show you how to crystallize this, as well as some mint. I have some mint from my garden here. I crystallize in the same way to decorate cake or or for birthday cake, or my granddaughter just like it this way. So it's very simple to do. I have an egg white here that I put on that plate. You want to beat the egg white a little bit. I mean, it's just to make it loose. Okay, that's about it. And then we'll start with this. I want to wet that on each side with the egg white and put it in sugar. So here I have about, I don't know, 3/4 of a cup of sugar. And you put it this here. Show you how to do a few. 1, 2. Okay, so here I have 6. What I want to do is to put sugar on top. In the bottom, you want to saturate them with sugar. Turn them like I do here, or press them one way or the other until they don't absorb any more sugar. And this, you can do that a day ahead. In fact, you should do it several days ahead. They get very dry. So put that on a wire rack to dry. I'll dry them here. And now the same thing with mint. I have some mint which are larger here. Some are thinner. So, again, the mint right in the egg white. Make sure they are wet on each side. Here, see the wider mint leaves. That's it. And again, the same idea here. I'm going to put sugar on top. Make sure they're really well saturated like this. But that's basically it. You let it dry now. This is about an hour later. They are about dry. And it could be a bit drier, man. Crunchy like this. See this, eh? And oh boy, it's delicious. And then I can put them into one of those containers here. Keep them in the refrigerator. When my granddaughter comes, she'll be very happy on that. If you leave them outside, then they get too dry. Get too dry and too crunchy. Put them like that. Beautiful for decoration, delicious to eat. Happy cooking. There is a rite of spring that we always observe at our house. It is the picking up of the wild dandelion that we have outside. And it's a great tradition. My father said you have to eat that at least 3 times a year to clean up your blood. So here I picked some up this morning. It comes out in spring, starting in March too. And obviously one of the secrets is that people tend to cut it here. No, this is one of the best parts. So you have to go lower. And after that you separated it. It's a bit tedious, to cut it like this. I scrape it. And try to keep it attached together like that. Sometimes it's too big, though I cut it in half. That's it. And then you put it into water, wash it, lift it out of the water, wash it again. You have to do it like 2-3 times to make sure that they are clean. And this is basically what I have here. I have it for like 6-8 people. I may do the dressing, but probably just do it for my wife and I tonight. So the dressing that we do there is very special in Lyon. Very assertive type of dressing. Inside we have anchovy fillet, as you can see here, and I'm going to take the anchovy fillet. In that case about 5 or 6, about half of a can here, maybe not even, or 5, and a couple of cloves of garlic. Now I'll crush my garlic into a puree, and start chopping that with the anchovy fillet into a paste. You can see this is going to be very strong, assertive, a lot of taste to this. In Lyon we put even smoked herring with it. Okay, remember I put here the oil from the anchovies can in there. And I'm going to put a little bit of French mustard in there. Vinegar. This is a red wine vinegar. My red wine vinegar, about probably a good tablespoon. Salt. Watch out, the salt not too much because you have, remember, the anchovies. And here, in addition to this, I have what we call pancetta, which is unsmoked bacon or bacon. Bacon is fine too, which I saute here as a garnish. But what I want to do is to use a little bit of the fat that I have in there. So the whole mixture is here. And olive oil on top of this. And of course here I have enough dressing for like 6 or 8. So I do that usually when I have to do the dressing because I don't have to do it again. I keep it in my refrigerator for a week or so. I have to test it here. A little bit of olive oil. Again. Okay. Pepper. Adding good pepper. And this is a strong dressing that is good, very good with cabbage too. If you do a cabbage salad, this will go very well with it too. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to remove some of this. Okay, I have enough here. Oops. I have enough here for my wife and me. So here we go in there. One. This, very often we do that, and it's almost like, it's not a meal, but almost. So just dressing in that strong. And you can dress it a little bit ahead because this is tough salad, it doesn't get wilted very fast. Okay, here it is. And in this, salad here. Ooh, nice portion. A little more here. And on top of this, we put eggs, usually hard cooked eggs, and remember those eggs have been cooked 9 minutes. Okay, and some crouton. I have crouton here. I brush that baguette with a little bit of olive oil and in the oven. And here we are, our dandelion salad. Happy cooking. Oh, I forget the bacon or pancetta here. Sometime when I have an elegant dinner party, I do that dish which is very, very easy to do, which I call a salmon timbal. The first thing that I do, a container like this, could be any container like that, I put a piece of plastic wrap in the center of it. It makes it easier to unmold. And what I start by doing, put about 2 teaspoons of chives in the bottom of this, and I put a little bit of cream cheese here. So cream cheese like a tablespoon. Then on top of this, I'm going to put some smoked salmon here, and you put it on top and use the smoked salmon really to press that cream cheese down into the chive. Yeah, and be as generous as you want with your smoked salmon. 1 layer. Then I'm going to do a layer of onion, and those of course are sweet Vidalia type of onion. I probably will do 2 layers. So 1 layer here inside, and then I will put another layer of cream cheese, a good tablespoon or so, which again, another layer of salmon. So I will use again that salmon to press it into place. I could have put a little bit of chive on top here. That'd be nice, give a nice taste. And then another layer of onion, sweet onion. You could put capers, you could put other type of thing in it, and that's about it. On the garnish. Then you can close that in. You do that ahead, and that's it. You're ready in your refrigerator for the party. As a garnish, I have some radish in the garden. They are not too beautiful, but they are fine. And I like to do the radish in a julienne kind of thing, cutting them in slices like this. and pile up the slice into strip like this. So that's one large radish. Okay, I have it here. You know, one of the best ways to put it right in the middle of the plate like this. Maybe I put a bit of chives too in it. And then when you have it in the center of your plate like that, you spread it out with your finger to do a nest in the center here. I think I could put a little dash of salt in there and maybe a little dash of olive oil. And then I'm ready to unmold my things here. I can lift it up directly from this, putting it right in the center, unmold it, and here you have a very elegant first course, a timbale of salmon with cream cheese. I'm sure you will enjoy it. Happy cooking. Dear friends and colleagues, I'm delighted to be with you today in those difficult times. And many of us, many of my friends have lost their jobs, their way of living. Everyone from dishwasher to cook to server has been affected. This is the time when we need to support one another the most. Most restaurants rely on fairly low-income workers to survive. Any chef will tell you that these people, often immigrants like me, and often people of color, from dishwasher to prep cook, line cooks, are the lifeblood of the kitchen. It's an essential element. I didn't go to culinary school. It did not exist at the time. You started in a professional kitchen. As a young kid at 13, I traveled 40 miles from my home in Lyon to the Hôtel de l'Europe in Bourg-en-Bresse, where I was born, to start my apprenticeship. And I started cleaning, peeling, eviscerating poultry, scaling fish, chopping, mincing, washing vegetables before I went to the stove. And it would be many more years before running the kitchen. We learned the trade by osmosis. If the chef orders you to do something, you say, yes, chef. No discussion, no explanation. You learn by looking, listening, and imitating. At one point, it was after a year for me, the chef would tell you, tomorrow you start at the stove. It was a consecration. It was scary. I thought I would not be able to perform, but somehow I knew how to do it. We work 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the afternoon and then head off until 5 p.m. and back until 9:30 or 10 o'clock. No days off. There were 3 of us, so every 3 days one of our apprentices was on guard, guarding during the afternoon cut from 2 to 5. So on that day work was from 8:30 in the morning, 10 at night. We had no pay the first year. At the end of the month, I got 4 days off, and I took the bus. I was taking the bus to return home, bringing my dirty chef's hat, jacket, pants, apron, towels, and the sheets of my bed for my mother to wash. The first apprentice, not necessarily the oldest, but the longest there, was in charge of the stove. A 6-burner, very large, solid rectangular block was lighted with paper and wood and eventually coal. At mealtime, the surface of the 6 openings were red with heat and the 2 large ovens underneath were over 500 degrees, no thermostat, regardless of whether you cook a piece of fish, a souffle, or a roast. You adjusted. Move the food closer to the door, left the door ajar, or conversely move it closer to the red hot side in the oven. The proper working of the stove at the right moment was very important, crucial. If it wasn't at its hottest when others were pouring it, Then the whole dining room was set back, and the responsible apprentice would really hear about it very loudly. Life was hard, but I didn't realize it at the time. We were a happy group, invigorated by the excitement of the kitchen, dying to and willing to learn and eager to conform to the style of the house. At that time, the cooks were at the bottom of the social scale, and they did not create in the kitchen, but follow the rule of the house by repeating the same dish over and over again, listening to advice, and adding minute improvements along the way until it was finally up to the standard of the house. After a few years, we could all replicate each of the dishes, and no one would have known who had done any of it. It was all about conforming. This old visual system of training had its merits, however. As apprentices, we repeated procedures until our hands could accomplish them without even thinking about what we were doing. This taught us discipline and a great appreciation for fundamental skills. I personally don't really think you can be a great chef until you're a good technician. Not until the basics are understood and mastered can a chef use that knowledge to begin to create dishes and develop a personal culinary philosophy. Those dishes of my youth that were learned by testing again, would remain in my memory to these days. Brillat-Savarin, a writer of the 19th century, said in one of his aphorisms, "You are what you eat." I believe that for many people, I am what I cook because I've been known and defined as a cook most of my life. Claude Lévi-Strauss, a French anthropologist, described the process of cooking in his seminal book, The Science of Mythology, as the process by which nature is transformed into culture. Well, going back as far as my memory can take me, I see a kitchen in my vision of my mother, my aunt, my cousin, and I visualize that process in a very specific dish for each of them. I can also visualize myself with my father in the cellar of our little restaurant, drawing wine, tending the garden with my two brothers, mushrooming with friends, or cooking with my wife or my friend Jean-Claude. My cultural identity is always related to food, and that gastronomic culture includes a whole set of rules and habits that define my way of life. In this culture, there are rituals like the special event at playing pool or having a picnic or going frogging or mushrooming. Those rituals are made up of tradition. This afternoon, you may have been thinking about politics or the events of the day, but suddenly the taste of that Madeleine troubles and disturbing. Tasting the cake again, he realizes that this specific taste reminds him of the small cake his aunt always had for him when, as a child, he spent his summer in the small town of Combray, a very small town on the coast of Normandy in the north of France. By association of ideas, he sees the teacup on the taste, he sees the kitchen, then he sees the cook in the kitchen, the garden, and as he said, eventually the whole little town of Combray comes out of his cup of tea. See, with the memory of my brain, it may take me a few minutes to summon up and review a specific event of my life. Conversely, the affective memory is very immediate. It is very powerful. It's very often overwhelming. I may be walking in the wood with my dog, not thinking about anything in particular, when all of a sudden the smell of that wild mushroom brings me back instantly and very powerfully to my childhood and hunting in the wood with my father or brother. In the same manner, a rendition, a taste, a rendition of a piece of music or viewing a particular scene will bring a memory unexpectedly and with great intensity. Affective memory assails you when you least expect it, and it's felt more profoundly than conventional memory. Those memories are essential for us, essential for the cook, the food critic, the food writer. It enriches your day-to-day life and your relationship with your family and friends. When I smell or see a certain recipe, I also see my family, my wife, my daughter, my brother, mother, or friend. There is no separating food from the visual. When I eat a small spring salad, I see my father's garden or my garden in upstate New York or in Connecticut. Life and the learning process may be quite different nowadays, certainly different than it was during my apprenticeship. But the kitchen spirit is still the same. The kitchen is still hard work, helping one another. This is be here for your friends. A formal process may be not as respected as it used to be today in our industry. Sometimes lowly workers who have not been to school are not allowed to go up the ladder to hire, to get position of authority and management with higher wage, health insurance, and increased job security. But fortunately, in our industry, many chefs are very generous and very giving. And we do everything to lift each other up. Many organizations, like Jose Andres Central Kitchen, have been heroes during this demanding pandemic time. But there is not really any surprise there. That's what we do. That's our mission. Food never goes away. Eating is the most basic requirement of any living person, and through the simple act of feeding another human being, we also do so much more. We bring pleasure, comfort, and life to people. There are no religious, political, racist, or gender implication in what we do. Everyone is the same in the eye of the stove. Our work is difficult, demanding, long hours, and very often low pay. But if you love to cook, if you love to please people, it is the greatest job in the world. And this may be the secret of life. If you love what you do, then you never have to go to work. During this pandemic, many people are cooking at home. Some are returning to the practice of preparing many meals for their family. And some are coming to it, maybe for the first time. This is very good. To cook with or for your family and friends is the greatest gift of love you can contribute. Even more so, sharing food and conversation around the table may be the ultimate expression of what civilization is. Discussion, the sharing of ideas around the table, have prevented wars. It has made friends, discovered talents, discovered love, and granted happiness. Never doubt the importance of what you do, especially now. It is important to cook, to eat, and to talk together. It defines our very human existence. In this difficult time, more than ever before, people need us. People need you. So keep cooking, sharing, and bringing joy to all the people around you. And happy cooking. First question is, what inspired you to become a chef? Well, I was about 13 years old. I finished my primary school. We had to go to the end of primary school in France. At that time, at my house, we had no television, no telephone, no radio. So life was certainly much simpler than it is for kids now. See, my father was a cabinet maker. My mother was a cook. I never thought that I could be, I don't know, a lawyer, a doctor. That was way too far away from who we were. In addition, I can count 10 restaurants in my family in France, and all of them run by women. My mother, of course, aunt, cousin, and so forth. So, you know, it was a kind of tradition, and I was more excited by the kitchen than by carpentry, although I liked to do it. I had blinders on my eyes. It was one or the other. So it was, in a sense, an easy choice to make. So I became a cook, and I never regret it. The second question is, what do you miss about the food or the ingredient that you work with when you first started in the industry? When I was a young apprentice, you know, we were certainly much closer to Mother Nature. Remember, there was no refrigeration at the time. We had ice box like it was simply a very large container with a block of ice in it. And that's what we put all the stuff in it. So we had to use it during the day. What we did every day, besides cleaning the floor, the table, the stove, was clean a lot of chicken, game, pheasant, woodcock, partridge during the hunting season. I remember killing, plucking, eviscerating chicken, as well as killing and skinning rabbit. The fish, especially lake and river fish, had to be scaled, eviscerated, and all the vegetables had to be trimmed, washed, and cut. So that was what was different than now. The third question is, what advice can you give to young culinarians who have chosen the food service as a career path? Well, you know, the food service now is very complex, very large, much larger than when I was a kid. And whether you want to work in a farm or supply food from a farm or distribution, or you want to work in supermarket or in hotel, you want to work in the marketing business, publicity, or in a regular restaurant, dining room or kitchen, or even if you want to be a food photographer, designer, a food critic, or work on television, do food on television, all of those are different areas, but they have one thing in common. And that thing in common is the process of cooking, knowing. So whatever direction you're heading, start by getting a few months apprenticeship of actual cooking, you know, behind the stove, in a restaurant or in a school. It will always be useful regardless of whatever part of the food world you decide to move on. That knowledge is very, very important. Tell us a story about Julia Child that no one ever heard. I don't know if no one ever heard, but you know, I met Julia in 1960, so I knew her for half a century, a long, long time. We became very good friends, true friends. Maybe we cooked a bit in the same way of spirit. She always said that we started apprenticeship together because in 1949 she moved to France, and in 1949 I was 23 years younger than Julia, but that's when I entered in apprenticeship. So the cooking of the time, the style, maybe the discipline of it, all of that stayed with her as well as with me. And in addition, you know, we had a lot of fun. She was happy to be on PBS as I am. We don't have to cow to any sponsor. So she was very true to herself, to what she was. There was no pretension with her. She was a happy person, and she knew that ultimately The most important thing was to give pleasure to people by cooking for them while having fun together. And we drank a lot of wine too. Next is, what is your biggest challenge for these new ways of doing things? Well, maybe the biggest challenge for me, cooking during the pandemic now, is probably not the cooking itself, but not being able to go to the market. You know, to look at the food, to smell the food, to touch the food. All of these have always been very, very important for me. See, a good cook uses all of his senses, the eye, the smell, the hearing, the touch, the taste. They're all very equally important to me. So I have to order the food without looking at it. It's probably one of the hardest things for me to do. Fortunately, I still have my garden, which I'm very thankful for. You have one day left on earth. What do you eat on your last day? Well, frankly, I don't know how hungry I would be if I knew that I was going to die in the next 24 hours. But yet, for me, if I have to have one last meal first, I would have a very, 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 very long meal. Being together and the beauty of sharing food is to enjoy it. And that's what we would do. And my last question is, out of your luminous career, what has been your favorite job? Well, the most favorite job for me is still to cook, really, and to please people. See, I've been a cook at home, of course, but many years in professional kitchen. I've been a cookbook author, I taught cooking, I cook on television, I've written for newspaper, book, but ultimately the important thing is to bring pleasure to the people. Food is more than its physiological function, you know. Food is security, it's home, it's love. This is what you want to do to people. And this certainly has been the favorite part of my job. And now, finally, to all my friends in the industry, I've been a professional cook for 71 years now, and I wouldn't charge for anything. America has been very good to me. I don't think that I could achieve what I did in America if I had stayed in France. From my many years at Columbia University to the knowledge that I acquired at Howard Johnson, onto my books and television, I want you to realize how important it is to be happy with what you are, with what you do. What you do is more than important. Your work is essential. Your work is generous. Your work is considerate. And people love you because you bring pleasure to them. And it is a great way to spend your life. Thank you for inviting me today. And happy cooking.